What do you think about all those L's from Kawaki?
Yeah, why does Kawaki suck, Immortal? Like, he's been really bad lately. He's honestly one of my like least favorite characters in all of Two Blue Vortex right now.
I think the main reason why Kawaki is kind of, getting slumped is because he doesn't really train all that much. I would say not all. Now let me backtrack here. He probably could have trained his power for the Karma Seal to get a lot stronger. Maybe in just to try to master all of Ishiki's abilities. And he thinks with just only the Karma Seal and only getting results a lot faster with Otsutsuki power that he doesn't really need to learn the ninja way to get stronger.
I mean, I don't know even if technically speaking, I don't know, at least narratively, whether he quote unquote trains or not isn't necessarily the most important part. Although they're mentioning, have you been training? It's more just like, what is it that he's doing? He's relying on something that's not his own. Like
power.
It's an external source, even though it's technically sealed inside him. It's still an external source that Kawaki's relying on. Even in terms of omnipotence, he's kind of hiding behind Ada's power, not improving Kawaki, the person Kawaki. Whereas Boruto is staying true to who he is, a ninja. In fact, he's actually going out of his way to not use the Karma Seal's power. So, and that's kind of like the important narratively. That's the important part here. But I don't know about Kawaki. The other thing is, I don't feel like this is just me. I was thinking about this earlier today. With like Boruto or so Sasuke is an example. What Sasuke was trying to do was become a version of Sasuke who is strong enough to defeat Itachi. So it's not that he was just trying to beat Itachi. It's turn Sasuke into a new version of Sasuke who can beat Itachi. With Kawaki, I don't feel like, when Sasuke does that, he comes up with all of these new tricks and jutsus and things he's going to use to kill Itachi. With Kawaki, I don't feel like he's done that. I feel like he's just, I'm going to kill Boruto, I'm going to kill Code, without trying to make Kawaki into some new version of himself that can do that. He just thinks he already can. And in terms of Kawaki's abilities, I don't think he has anything new, at least that we've seen. All Kawaki's done is the same old, same old. Whatever he trained could have just been to keep throwing rods, at tree stumps, the same way he already could do, to shrink himself, the same way he already could do. Whereas Boruto's come up with a lot of new jutsu, Flying Raijin, Rasengan Uzuhiko. Technically, he already had Purple Lightning according to the Boruto databook cards, but he at least maybe got better at Purple Lightning, and so on. Like, Boruto's got new things, swordsmanship skills, whereas Kawaki, there's something new there. It's the same thing he already could do.
But no, I definitely think Kawaki's just been like one of the worst characters in all of Two Blue Vortex. In fact, like the worst character, because they took a good character and they made him bad. If like they took away everything that made him good, they literally stripped away his motivations to the point that it doesn't make sense. And he's just taking L after L every single chapter. Like we said, like he's such a freaking meme in Two Blue Vortex. Honestly, I hate his character. He's become one of the worst characters in fiction just based on how they've ruined his character. I honestly have hated it so far. It just honestly, it just makes me sad to see how far Kawaki's fallen. Like, it's so bad, bro. He's so weak. And, like, he's not even fun to watch. He's just been, like, the worst character so far. It's just been awful.
He's just, like, almost just like, I forgot the name of it. I don't want to say comic relief, but he's like the guy, he's like Kiba, the Kiba of Two Blue Vortex.
Immortal.
Like when Kiba was like, I'm gonna be Hokage, and everyone's like, no, you're not.
What do you think, Immortal?
It doesn't make sense because he just came from somewhere so high up with like the motivation, and then he just did nothing with it over the time skip, and he's doing nothing with it now to the point that it feels like it's a completely different character. But Immortal, what are your thoughts?
To me, well, we're still on Kawaki, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So to me, it's like this. So Kawaki's character. Okay, the question was about Kawaki's. Is it about Kawaki's character, as in like his ideals and everything about him going on into Vortex?
Everything, the totality, his power, how he's been presented, his
Yeah.
aura,
Okay.
his narrative thread.
Yeah, whatever you want to focus on is fine, but we're talking about all of Kawaki is up for grabs.
Kawaki into Blue Vortex, like, okay. From the beginning of the time skip, you kind of already got this idea that, okay, you know, he's fine. He managed to drive Boruto out of the village and convince everyone that he's the hero. You know, he managed to pretty much, I would say, keep the village under control. But there's also, in chapter 1, we kind of were already told that there are claw marks all over the village. So Code has been around the village for quite some time. And towards the end of the chapter, we also noticed that, you know, Code has been trying to find ways to bring Boruto back to the village. In fact, it's even to the point where he knows the people that he cares about. And so Kawaki has been, you know, going to the, I would say what unit was it that he was going with to find the claw marks and just get rid of them?
I don't know the name of the unit, but it was just like go to Sector D or whatever.
They're probably
but
official
it was a unit
ninja,
that
though, designated by the
much,
Hokage, considering they were in a unit.
Yeah.
Official ninja, yeah.
Pretty much all the Jonins, him and all the Jonins were finding the claw marks around the village. He was pretty much keeping the village safe. And it wasn't until Code shows up, and it wasn't until both Boruto and Code shows up that all that you start to see like a decline come down. Then the Shinjuus come around, they whoop Kawaki's ass, and, you know, he still isn't, you know, he still really isn't, you know, not as powerful, but it's just like, you know, the Shinjuus kicks his ass, a Clawgrime kicks his ass, Boruto kicks his ass, and so that steady decline, that bomb that's ready to go off, is just ready to go off at a moment's notice.
Well, why do you say decline though? Because like,
what I mean
it feels
is
like you're
in his
insulting
mental
him, like you kicking his ass.
I'm
like,
not really
like,
insulting him.
Like
I'm not
Kawaki's
really
not
insulting
been that
him.
bad. Like, why are
I'm
you trying
saying,
to like downplay Kawaki? Like, he's been actually pretty good in Blue Vortex so far.
No, I'm analyzing his like mental state.
Okay, go ahead.
Because Kawaki is not really the most mentally stable character in the Naruto Boruto series.
You don't think so?
But
I thought he's been,
at the same time,
he's like.
well,
I completely disagree.
Well, listen. What I mean is like this: when it comes to Naruto and protecting everything that Naruto cares about, he kind of will go ballistic. Not like ballistic as in like go crazy, but as in he's more so kill first, ask questions later.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. He asked Sarada, you know, like to stop interfering first.
He's been
really
hesitant. Like he's done, but then afterwards without making a single move. Like it took him so long to seal Naruto in the first place.
Here's the thing: he's been well. I think it's mainly because I'm looking at like how the way he's been going at it lately, not including in retrospect to what's been going on in the part 1.
Well, I mean, even in part 2 with Vortex, so the first thing he asked Boruto is like, are those tree people friends of yours? He asked the question before attacking.
Yeah, like
I guess I've been mainly focused. Sorry,
to Blue Vortex. Like he's been a great character so far. Like one of my favorites. Like he's not my favorite because Jura and Damon exist, but like Kawaki's really up there.
Yeah,
I've really been enjoying like every time he's on
he's
screen.
got one of the.
And
I'm actually
like,
making a video in regards to Kawaki's character.
Yeah, like people keep underplaying him,
referencing part 1.
He's
so
like one
I think
of the
everything
strongest
works
characters.
very well thematically.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me backtrack here. Kawaki isn't necessarily kill first, ask question later, but he is ask questions before deciding whether or not if he wants to kill something. If it's
I would hope so. That seems pretty.
That's pretty much.
I think
that's pretty much inconsistent. I think that's pretty much consistent with his character so far. Still in character for Kawaki. Okay, let me backtrack even more. So when I said Kawaki was a very unstable character, when I was kind of analyzing his mindset and, you know, his psyche, what's going on with him in moments of crisis, and, you know, pretty much everything that's been unveiling so far.
Yeah, I disagree. I think he's been, like I said, a really stable in terms of his characterization as well as his like mental state. Like he hasn't lost his mind or snapped. I feel like that's really a mellow take you're coming up with here. Like Kawaki's been not only a good person but a good character. And like the only like reasonable character that's actually like using logic. Like it's not like a villain with a point. No, he's just like straight up right. Like in my recent video that came out, he's, in my opinion, the hero of Two Blue Vortex. Like he just straight up is. Like, I don't know if you've heard that passionate rant or not, but like, it's very clear.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
I mean, even this latest chapter kind of proves Kawaki right that like Boruto can't control Momoshiki.
Exactly. Like Boruto, like we've been talking about how the end of the time skip just sucks and how Boruto's making a mistake and how he still hasn't paid up for that or owned the consequences of it or even acknowledged it. Kawaki's the only one that's really grown over the time skip.
Listen.
Everyone else has grown.
If we're talking like towards the end of the time skip where Boruto and Kawaki are fighting, it seems like he's finally gained control over the karma.
Yeah, it seemed like it until he wasn't, and then it wasn't ever explained. That's bad writing. But Kawaki's had great writing so far.
How is that bad writing?
Because Boruto never... There's no consequence to Boruto's mistake. That's the problem. Boruto made, like, he thought in the beginning of the or end of the code arc / beginning of prophecy arc that he could control Momoshiki's power
for some reason.
Then he kind of can't because Momoshiki kind of takes over for a split second and then releases Kawaki. Omnipotence happens, and then Boruto's just Momoshiki's like, "Oh, we better kill your friends," and Boruto's like, "No, Momoshiki," and then Momoshiki never gets to take over, and Boruto's just like, you know, I'm resolved. You're not taking over. And Momoshiki's like, ah! And that's the end of the time skip. There's no consequence. It just nothing.
Exactly. Like, I don't understand what's happening.
You know that over...
Like, Kawaki's had great writing so far. Like, it's been peak freaking writing so far, bro. I don't know why you're, like, bashing him so hard.
Kawaki is arguably the best character in Boruto overall.
Okay. But go ahead, please.
I guess...
Finish your thoughts.
Okay, listen. So, Kawaki... I mean, sorry, not Kawaki. I'm not going to focus on Kawaki right. Boruto. Okay, so you said Boruto doesn't suffer any consequences for his actions? For after, you know, Momoshiki and him became one after that huge, intense battle with him and Kawaki?
Not in part 1.
Exactly.
Are you talking about in the time skip?
Right.
Like, part 1 pre-time skip, there are no consequences to anything. Boruto just quote unquote wins without doing anything.
Which is the worst.
It's not that Boruto wins. It's that Momoshiki just loses. You know, it's like imagine just losing to no one.
Exactly.
That's what happens.
No
give me examples. Give me some examples.
It wasn't even a fight.
Yeah, because I'm
like
so
imagine you're playing 1-on-1 with someone in basketball and they don't do anything and you just lose.
Yeah, like there's just no struggle.
Wait, what?
I need you to give me some
what
examples.
Happened at the end
That's
of the
why
time
it doesn't
skip.
Make sense. Because it doesn't make sense. Which is why we're pointing it out.
You said at the end of the time skip?
So
you're telling me that
your example really what
at the end
doesn't make any sense to
that's the point
you're talking about.
Exactly.
That's the point.
It doesn't make sense.
If you're playing 1-on-1 with somebody and they're not
doing anything.
So
but
okay.
If you're playing basketball 1-on-1 with somebody and he doesn't do anything and you don't score, then none of you won.
Pretty much.
Exactly. But in Boruto somehow won without either like that's why it doesn't make sense because
but he did say he did make a wait, hold up.
And Momoshiki lost without Boruto doing anything.
That's a lie because he did sacrifice himself. He was willing to die. So
in the code arc.
That's not the end of the that's not the prophecy arc. That's the code arc.
So you're saying that Boruto should have despaired at the end of the chapter?
No, I think more should have happened. And because if Boruto despaired from that, I would have said, wow, what a crybaby. Get over it. The problem is nothing actually happened.
He gained the resolve in the Ishiki arc. He showed his resolve in the code arc. And then he lost that resolve in the following arc for no reason. He became unwilling to sacrifice himself.
And then there's no consequence to Boruto doing that to further his growth after the fact. It's just happened.
Okay, so Boruto really felt like he doesn't need to die, but at the same time,
with no explanation.
Huh?
With no explanation of why.
Why doesn't he need to die?
Well, we know why, because Boruto thinks he can control Momoshiki's power. But why does he think that? No explanation.
I don't think he knows.
Bro, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't
This is
think
why
that's why he
Kawaki's
knows
I don't
either.
think he
the
knows.
worst writing so far in Two Blue Vortex. Like, it just doesn't make sense because he doesn't make sense. Like, he's honestly the backbone of this all, the epitome of this whole debate. This is why I just haven't liked Kawaki so far in Two Blue Vortex, like, at all.
Because he
Wait,
didn't
hold
really
on, time out.
pursue his goal.
Wait, hold on,
The
time
writing
out.
just hasn't made
So
sense.
you went from wait, so
I
you
thought
went
you said he was the best written character. That's what I heard.
Wait,
too, right? I heard that, right?
He
I
was.
know.
We both heard that, right?
But
You're
now
talking
he's
about
the
Yo,
worst.
Immortal Phoenix, we heard the same thing, right?
Yeah.
No, I was talking
heard
about
that
his
too. I'm just like,
characterization.
now
he
you-
was.
like, he's
in part
stable.
one,
I'm
he
just
was
making
the best
sure.
written character.
Now we're talking
But
about the
then
narrative.
making sure I'm
is when
not-
all
Which is
changed.
completely different. Like, it's
I'm
the
just making sure I'm not high.
no, it's the plot
I-
versus the
I know.
story because he hasn't made sense in the plot, but the story's completely different.
So
from that.
back.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense, but he's been narratively
How
great
doesn't
with
he
his
make-
threads and
how
how
does-
he's
wait,
driving
hold
the
on,
story
and
forward.
two- wait,
Because he's
wait,
been
wait, wait,
proactive
wait,
rather
wait.
than reactive. But go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Two Blue Vortexes started. So how is he not proactive in the plot though? Like,
Compared
Bro
to every
didn't
other
do
character, he's
anything
not.
for 3 years. He was like, bro, it doesn't matter. I'm going to come after you and kill you. And bro just sat in the village eating potato chips with Chocho.
how would you guys feel if like a couple chapters later, like we get W's from Kawaki? Like, because I think that what Kawaki is going to have, my personal opinion, is like a redemption arc.
Yeah, I think that
honestly.
would
Like,
really
he's
redeem
taking
his
L's for a
character.
reason.
Because, like I said,
I think
Well, he
they're
needs
like
it.
he's
making
honestly been
him
one of the
lose
worst
several times
characters
for a reason.
so
I think
far.
I think it's just like a writing point, like this the way
Exactly.
that they're portraying his character.
Wait,
Like right now, he's
if we're
losing.
if we're still
And-
going by how the deaths would work in the pre-time skip, then it would have to be each and every double-digit chapter. Someone major is going to die. If we're
No,
still
they lost that. They lost that pretty. Like, it didn't stay true to the every 11 chapter thing. Like,
nah, I think chapter 77 did the only. Oh no, chapter 77, someone got sealed. Two people got sealed. That was it.
yeah, but even then, like, you know, like chapter, I mean, I guess you could say for a few, but like chapter 44, no one died. It was chapter 43 that Boru died. So like, it's never been perfect. It's
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
never-
been a thing, but like, not perfect.
It hasn't been consistent like that. I think it went back to being that consistency in chapters 55 and 66. And
He was
then-
doing it for a
I
little
doubt
bit,
it's
but then like
Yeah.
anyways.
chapter 8 of Two Blue Vortex would be like 88, but there's nothing.
I don't think it's.
It would have to be like you would have to consider that as like a reset, pretty much.
Okay, so you think chapter 11 would be the one?
Yeah,
But then
pretty
that's
much.
already messed up because I guess in this you could say like chapter 5 we get the reveal of Sasuke tree, or chapter 4 Sasuke tree, chapter 5 Moegi tree, like in chapter 3 or 4 Bug tree. So we got 3 in a row there.
chapter 88.
Like, so
Okay,
Weggy got turned
so
straight
chapter
to,
8. Do you
right?
think chapter 8 should have
Oh, yeah.
been?
Chapter 2?
Yes, so Moegi in chapter 2.
Do you think chapter 88 should have been like the chapter which someone major should have died? Since chapter
Not
8 is
necessarily. I don't think the 11 chapter thing needs to be a thing at all.
I don't think it ever was a thing.
I think it was
I
just a
mean,
coincidence.
Yeah.
not really a coincidence because I'm looking at a pattern here.
Well,
That's what I'm looking
The
at.
pattern
But
is
then-
in
yeah,
but
chapter
they
pattern
didn't
kinda
numbers,
falls
start in
off.
chapter like
time.
20. Nobody died in
pacing.
chapter 11.
That's just
like-
showing consistent pacing. About similar pacing, which is good. Good to have not fast then slow pacing.
Although
Yeah.
Two Blue Vortex has been pretty fast ass pacing. But anyway, getting back to Kawaki, the point is that this is why it's really good writing. They're pushing Kawaki into a corner.
Mhm.
And that's what's gonna make Kawaki do something of some sort. It might be one of those things where he probably again relies on something external. But whatever he does at the Karma Seal, Omnipotence, however some sort of lie, maybe he starts telling one about Momoshiki, Boruto not being able to control Momoshiki to pit them against Boruto again. The point is, Kawaki's going to get pushed into a corner to where he does something, and once he does whatever he does, ideally, that should then kind of push Boruto back into a corner to give him something to struggle against, because right now
Exactly.
he's kind of just winning everything. He needs to be set back. So as long as they do that, I think it'd be really good writing. You know, that's again why I think Kawaki's been one of the better written characters.
That's why I
in
hate the
Boruto.
idea of this being a redemption for Kawaki in a few chapters, because he has to fall in order to rise back up. But for me, he never fell down in the first place. Like, he stayed peak consistently the entire time. So there's no reason to have him fall down a peg or two anyways. Like, I think he's done exactly what he's needed to move the story forward. And like we always say, it's the impact on the characters around them. The omnipotence itself has been an overwhelming feature from basically Kawaki's character, as well as the impact it's had on Boruto, very blatantly, both actively and passively throughout every chapter. So I think Kawaki's been great the entire time.
But what do you guys think?
I agree.
Really? Okay.
That's it.
Well,
yeah, I was hoping for
yeah,
more of an elaboration than that.
then, but I agree. I would say, because that is pretty true. I mean, when Kawaki is getting backed into a corner, when Kawaki does end up getting backed into a corner, it's gonna push him to do extreme crap, extreme shit. But I think it would be to the point where it's like it would be something similar to what happened in chapter 65.
Okay. That's interesting that you said that you
in terms
agree,
of Kawaki's corner.
because I actually disagree. I think a redemption for Kawaki is going to be necessary in a few chapters so he can just become great.
In the time skip, Kawaki doesn't seem to grow out the horns. He looks very powerful in his base form, and he pretty much is rocking Jigen's fit.
Well, I don't know if it's that he can't go into the horn. He just might not have done so yet.
Or he may not have needed it.
I think it makes sense that he can.
Maybe he
exactly isn't needed it, because he's been very powerful as well. Like, people can throw around their westernized memes because they're ignorant, dumb idiots, but realistically, that's not how Kawaki is. Like, he's not sleeping. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really want to get back to that whole Boruto just not telling Kawaki about, Momoshiki.
Yeah,
now,
like I was saying,
to a certain degree, I understand.
Yeah, like that's where it really started going downhill for me.
In a sense, I understand
why Kawaki's been a bad character, but please go ahead.
In a sense, I understand why Boruto would not have told, Kawaki about Momoshiki, because in chapter 72, I would say he kind of sensed Momoshiki, or I think that was 73 or 72. Which one was it?
Kamui probably knows.
Oh, you talked about Kawaki.
When he came back to life, and after he came back to life and he went to go to the Hokage's office.
Oh, yeah, chapter 73.
Yeah, chapter 73. I think he sensed Momoshiki inside of Boruto. And I think at that given point, he doesn't really need to tell Boruto about Momoshiki. Kawaki kind of already knows at this given point that Momoshiki is still a problem.
Exactly.
No, but here's the thing, though. This is the problem with Kawaki as a character. So he acts surprised in the latest chapter about Boruto not being able to control Momoshiki when he originally thought that through all of part 1. So why did he all of a sudden decide he can control it?
That's why I've been saying it's terrible writing.
That doesn't make sense.
Kawaki's been written awful so far throughout all of Two Blue Vortex. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Been way too proactive
Like, they
as well.
completely fallen his character from the height he was at.
Exactly. Like, he needs a redemption.
He needs a redemption arc, but okay, so what I really want to talk about is the fact that, since Boruto didn't train to control his karma seal, and Kawaki didn't train in the shinobi ways, but has been growing in the Otsutsuki power, do you think that's a double-edged sword for both characters?
Well, we don't know if he hasn't. In fact, I think he's been training extremely hard over the time skip, which is why he's actually been pretty good in Two Blue Vortex so far.
Yeah, good at using all of Ishiki's powers and abilities. I'm not saying he has. I'm not saying he doesn't have those abilities,
through ninja tactics, though. Like, he's strategically strategizing his way through these fights, which is why he's been basically peak. Like, one of my favorite characters, honestly.
Oodie, I feel like you're kind of just. It almost feels like you're switching the script in a sense.
What do you mean?
Because you said at one given point his character fell off, and then the next given point you say he's peak.
Well, I'm not talking about in totality, obviously. I'm talking about in specific aspects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Because again, going back to plot versus story, they're two completely different things. So I think it makes sense. But again, this is going back to Boruto versus Kawaki fight debate that we had with Mello. It doesn't make sense, and it's happening. Yeah, like we can't just go with an interpretation because we want it to make sense if it just clearly, blatantly isn't. But yeah.
Gotcha.